Underground, beneath the Imperial Palace in Tokyo. August 9th, 1945. The heat is thick. Summer in Japan, the air dense with humidity and the particular silence of a city that has been burning for 6 months. Above this room, the scars of 200 nights of firebombing are written across the skyline in ash and absence. Down here, 6 men sit around a table. In approximately 30 minutes, a messenger will arrive. He will tell these 6 men that a second Japanese city has just been erased from the map. A city of 250,000 people, gone in an instant. The second time in 72 hours that a single American aircraft has unmade a place that existed for centuries. The news will change nothing. These 6 men will not agree on what to do. The 3 who wanted to fight will still want to fight. The 3 who wanted peace will still want peace. The second bomb, like the first, will not break the deadlock. The machine that governs Japan's war is called the Supreme Council for the Direction of the War. 6 men: the Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister, the Army Minister, the Navy Minister, the Chief of the Army General Staff, the Chief of the Navy General Staff. Every major decision of the Japanese state must pass through them, and it must pass unanimously. All voices in harmony. That is the rule. In the summer of 1945, the voices are not in harmony. The Prime Minister is Admiral Kantaro Suzuki, 77 years old, exhausted, navigating a system he barely controls. The Foreign Minister is Shigenori Togo, the lone civilian voice in the room consistently pushing for peace. He accepted the post in April only after Suzuki promised to leave diplomacy entirely to him. The Navy Minister is Admiral Mitsumasa Yonai, a 4-star admiral who had once been Prime Minister himself before the army forced him out. These 3 want the war to end. Then there are the others. Admiral Soemu Toyoda is Chief of the Naval General Staff, a hardliner who holds the formal position, voted on in June that Japan should fight to extinction. General Yoshijiro Umezu is Chief of the Army General Staff, immovable, certain, still reposing full confidence in a homeland defense plan called Ketsu-go. And at the center of all of it, the animating force of the war faction, the man whose decisions will determine whether Japan surrenders or burns. General Korechika Anami, Army Minister. Anami is 58, broad-shouldered, a man whose calm surface conceals an absolute devotion to the warrior's code and to the belief that there is one honorable outcome for a soldier who fails the emperor. He failed the entrance examination for the military academy twice before passing on his 3rd attempt. He has not failed at anything since. A former aide-de-camp to the emperor, he knows Hirohito not as a constitutional abstraction, but as a man. From the moment he became army minister, Anami has been the strongest voice against surrender. He has ordered the arrest of those who dared speak of peace. The system requires that he and Togo agree before anything can happen. They do not agree. The army or navy can veto any decision simply by having its minister resign, collapsing the cabinet. This is not parliamentary debate. It is a constitutional death grip. And in August 1945, the grip is absolute. The government's public position, stated formally in June, is that Japan will fight to the last, that every man, woman, and child should die for the emperor when the Allies arrive. The men saying this largely believe it. Here is what the Big Six believe is their strategic ace: the Soviet Union. Japan and the Soviet Union are bound by a neutrality pact, a formal agreement of non-aggression. Moscow is not at war with Japan. For months, Anami, Umezu, and Toyoda have been urging Togo to convey Japan's warmest regards to the Soviets, looking toward a friendlier relationship, hoping to purchase petroleum and aircraft, exploring whether Moscow might broker a negotiated peace on terms better than the unconditional surrender the Allies are demanding at Potsdam. Some members of the Big Six believe they might still persuade Moscow to join Japan in the war. This is the card Japan is holding, their last real diplomatic option, the foundation on which the entire strategy of fighting for better terms is built. At the Tehran Conference in 1943, the Soviets secretly committed to entering the war against Japan once Germany was defeated. At Yalta in February 1945, they confirmed it. The Red Army is already massing on the Manchurian border. 1.5 million troops, 5,000 tanks, staging for the largest single ground offensive of the Pacific War. Moscow had rescinded the Neutrality Pact in April. The pact itself would not expire until April 1946, but the Soviets are not waiting. Japan has been counting on 8 more months of Soviet neutrality. They have something closer to 8 weeks. None of this is known in Tokyo. The Big Six send their warmest regards. They draft their diplomatic overtures. They wait for Moscow to respond. Moscow is not responding because Moscow is loading artillery shells into railcars bound for Manchuria. August 6, 1945, 8:15 in the morning. The B-29 superfortress Enola Gay releases its bomb over Hiroshima from 31,000 feet. 43 seconds later, 1,800 feet above the city, the weapon detonates. The equivalent of 12.5 kilotons of TNT released in a microsecond. 5 square miles of the city center cease to exist. 120,000 people are dead within 4 days, many in the instant of the flash, others in the hours and days after, from burns and radiation, and a city that has stopped being a place capable of sustaining human life. Tokyo receives word of something devastating in Hiroshima. The next day, the Americans announce it was an atomic bomb. The Imperial Army demands an investigation. They will not concede it was an atomic bomb before they have verified the claim themselves. The Supreme War Council does not call an emergency meeting. The top military leaders of Japan learn that an American aircraft has destroyed a city in a single explosion, and they shrug. Hanami declares, with certainty, "I am convinced that the Americans had only one bomb after all." Admiral Toyoda tells the group that no country in the world, not even the United States, could build more than one atomic bomb. If they only have one, Hiroshima is a tragedy but not a turning point. The invasion is still coming. Japan can still bleed it. This logic is internally consistent. The war faction's entire strategy rests on one premise. If America still needs to invade, Japan can inflict casualties so catastrophic that American political will collapses at the negotiating table. Atomic bombs only change that calculus if they replace the invasion. In August 1945, American planners have not substituted bombing for landing. The Hawks are betting on an invasion that is still on the table. The Army forces postponement of the emergency meeting on Hiroshima. There are more pressing matters elsewhere. The Big Six will convene on the morning of August 9th, 3 days after the bomb fell, 3 days during which Japan's leadership has done nearly nothing, said nothing, changed nothing. What they do not know, as they delay, is what the night of August 8th will bring. The meeting on the morning of August 9th is supposed to be about Hiroshima. It is not, in the end, about Hiroshima at all. Shortly before midnight on August 8th, the Soviet Union declares war on Japan and invades Manchuria. 137 Japanese divisions, 60 years of Japanese continental presence. The puppet state of Manchukuo, the Kwantung Army, swept aside in hours by a Red Army that has been waiting since February to begin. The entire diplomatic architecture the Big Six had constructed around Moscow's presumed neutrality collapses overnight. Not eroded, gone. When the Big Six gather in the underground bunker beneath the Imperial Palace at 10:30 in the morning, they already know. The Soviet entry is in the room before anyone sits down. Suzuki speaks first. He has just come from the Emperor. It is impossible, he says, to continue the war. Togo follows. Japan can accept the Potsdam Declaration, but the emperor's position must be guaranteed. Yonai, quiet and precise. They cannot afford to wait for better circumstances. No better circumstances are coming. Then the Hawks. Anami, Umezu, and Toyoda hold their ground. Japan will accept Potsdam, but only on 4 conditions. Japan will disarm her own forces. Japan will conduct her own war crimes trials. There will be no occupation of the home islands, and absent those conditions, there will be a decisive battle on Japanese soil. They believe they can inflict such casualties on any invading force that the United States will negotiate. American military planners project between 250,000 and 1 million US soldiers dead in an invasion of Japan. The Hawks are gambling on a real thing. American democracy is not infinitely tolerant of casualties. They have watched what Iwo Jima and Okinawa cost. They believe in their arithmetic. Then, shortly after 11 o'clock, a messenger arrived. Nagasaki has been bombed. A second atomic weapon, even more powerful than the first, has detonated above the city. Nearly 40,000 dead. The bomb's primary target had been Kokura, further north, but cloud cover spared it. Nagasaki stood clear. Toyoda had declared, with certainty, that no second bomb existed. The second bomb now exists in the ruins of a city on the western coast of Kyushu. He is still in the room. He does not move. None of them move. The Supreme Council was still deadlocked 3-3 when the messenger arrived. It remained so afterward. 2 cities erased in 72 hours, the Soviets 200 miles into Manchuria. 6 men in a bunker, and they cannot agree. The bunker tells only part of the story. Around this same period, Admiral Yonai made a private remark to a colleague. He said that the atomic bombings and the Soviet entry into the war were, in a sense, a godsend, because we don't have to say that we'll stop the war due to the domestic situation. That word, godsend, takes some unpacking. Yonai and the peace faction had not been converted to peace by the bombs. They had wanted peace for months. As the summer progressed, Hirohito and the civilian leadership had been watching something else building, something they discussed only in careful euphemisms. They called it the domestic situation. What they meant was starvation. The rice crop in autumn would not feed 70 million people stripped of their fishing fleets, their supply chains, their ability to import anything. Revolution, not from American bombs, but from hunger, was taking shape in the fall. The peace faction needed to stop the war. They had already reached that conclusion. What they could not do, what the system would not allow, was stop the war because of internal collapse. That was not a reason a Japanese government could offer its people. It was an admission of total failure, the kind that topples governments and, in a country organized around imperial divinity, threatens something far more dangerous than that. The bombs gave them a reason. The Soviet invasion gave them a reason. Catastrophe from outside can be framed as sacrifice, as bearing the unbearable, as a decision made for the sake of humanity rather than out of desperation. Catastrophe from inside is something else entirely. The bombs did not change the peace faction's minds. They changed the political landscape, but the decision was not theirs to make alone. The emperor had not yet spoken. The peace faction has one option left. It has never been used this way before. The imperial system is designed to ratify consensus, not break deadlocks. The emperor is not, constitutionally, a participant in the policy process. He is its seal. But Suzuki and Togo maneuver to bring the Big Six before Hirohito, not to inform him of a decision, but to ask him to make one. Invoking the emperor as tiebreaker is itself an extraordinary act, bending the consensus system to its breaking point. They are using the machine against itself. The Imperial Conference convenes just before midnight, August 9th into the 10th. The 6 ministers and the president of the Privy Council arrange themselves before the emperor in the underground conference room. The air is still. One by one, each member of the Big Six states his position. Umezu speaks for the war faction. The Soviet entry is unfavorable, yes, but Ketsugo is not invalidated. The situation is difficult, not hopeless. The peace faction speaks of the domestic situation, the starvation and unrest building toward revolution, without dressing it up. At 2 a.m, Suzuki turns to the emperor and asks him to speak. Hirohito is 44 years old. He removes a glove. He wipes his brow. When he speaks, he uses a form of Japanese so archaic and formal that even his ministers, men who have spent their careers in imperial service, hear it as something from another age. The Japanese call it the voice of the crane. He says he does not desire further destruction of cultures, nor additional misfortune for the peoples of the world. He says Japan must bear the unbearable. The room is silent. The deadlock that 2 atomic bombs and a Soviet invasion could not move is gone. The 3 hawks have not changed their minds. It no longer matters what their minds hold. It is not over. It will not be over for 5 more days, while Anami and Umezu press for their original conditions, while Washington's response to Japan's acceptance is passed word by word for evidence that the emperor is safe. But the direction has changed. And then, on the night of August 14th, the men who cannot accept this decide to stop it by force. Nearly 1,000 officers and soldiers move into the Imperial Palace compound. Their objective: find the phonograph recordings of the Emperor's surrender broadcast, recorded that evening, his voice captured twice on lacquer discs, and destroy them before they reach the airwaves at noon on August 15th. General Mori, commander of the Imperial Guards, refuses to join the coup. They murder him. They seize his seal and forge the orders they need. For hours, they move through corridors and rooms and do not find what they are looking for. The recordings are hidden in a safe in a small office. They are eventually smuggled out, the original in a lacquer box, the copy inside a lunch bag, passed hand to hand through the chaos outside. Prime Minister Suzuki barely escapes his house before soldiers arrive, search it, and burn it to the ground. He is 77 years old, and he watches the smoke from a distance. The coup fails not because the plotters lose their nerve, but because the man they need does not come with them. An army had spent days trying to find some path by which honor and surrender could coexist, petitioning for better terms, arguing in every meeting, refusing to stop pushing. He never stopped believing Japan should fight, and yet, when the rebel officers come to him, when they lay before him the one act that might still prevent the broadcast and undo everything, he does not come with them. He tells them that the emperor has spoken. He orders his officers to stand down. His refusal to support the coup is, almost certainly, the reason the surrender survives the night. The recordings are smuggled clear. The broadcast is prepared. He was the war faction's immovable center. He ordered the arrest of those who dared speak of peace. He had become the man who saved the surrender. He does not say this to anyone. He goes home. In the early hours of August 15th, before the broadcast, before noon, before the emperor's voice reaches a single radio set, General Korichika Anami commits seppuku. He is in his garden. The wounds he makes are not immediately fatal. He bleeds for 3 hours before a staff officer orders a physician to end it. He dies in the dark, in the summer heat. Before the war, he spent everything to continue is announced to be over. Beneath his body, they find a note. It reads, "I, with my death, humbly apologize to the emperor for the great crime." The great crime. Historians have sat with that phrase for 80 years. He might mean the war itself, the 14 years, the 350,000 civilians dead in firebombing alone, the cities reduced to fields of ash. He might mean his flirtation with the coup, the hours he stood at the edge of becoming the man who stopped the surrender, and chose instead to obey. The note does not say. Anami did not survive to explain. That ambiguity is the one thing he left behind that no one has been able to take apart. He never heard the broadcast. At noon on August 15th, every radio in Japan goes silent, and then comes a voice no Japanese person has ever heard before. The emperor speaks from a pre-recorded disc in archaic formal Japanese to a nation that has spent 4 years being told he is divine. The speech has been transcribed, edited, corrected, pasted over with amendment slips, recorded twice because the first attempt was not right. It has been smuggled in a lunch bag. It has survived a palace coup by hours. Hirohito tells his people that the war situation has developed not necessarily to Japan's advantage. He tells them to bear the unbearable. Because the speech is compressed into the language of imperial ceremony, many of the people listening cannot fully parse what it means. When it ends, a radio announcer comes on to clarify. The emperor, the announcer explains, has said that Japan is surrendering. The other 5 men move through, the wreckage of the world they made. Togo, who accepted the foreign ministry only after being promised control of diplomacy, who pushed at every meeting for surrender, who argued with everything he had for peace, is tried as a war criminal. He dies in Sugamo prison in 1950. Toyoda, who declared that no country on earth could build more than 1 atomic bomb, who held his 4 conditions through every catastrophe, is the only member of the Japanese military tried for war crimes to be acquitted. Yonai, who called the bombs a godsend, is the only member of the Big Six to remain in his position after the war. Suzuki resigns the day the surrender is announced. His house is ash. His old command ship, the armored cruiser Iwate, the vessel he commanded when he visited the United States in 1918, had been sunk by American carrier aircraft just weeks before Japan's formal surrender. And Umezu, who told the emperor at 2 in the morning that the Homeland Defense Plan was viable, that all was not yet lost, is brought aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay on September 2, 1945, and forced to sign the formal instrument of surrender. The man who said it was not over, his signature on the document that says it is. The question these events left open has never been fully closed. What ended the war? The emperor himself gave his answer 4 times. At his meeting with Togo on August 8th, in the imperial rescript of August 15th, in a letter to his son in September, and when he told General MacArthur that the peace party did not prevail until Hiroshima had created a situation which could be dramatized. He said the bomb. He said it clearly, more than once. Others looked at the same evidence and found something different. The Supreme Council, some historians argue, did not convene after Hiroshima because the bombing was barely more destructive than what Japan had already endured for 6 months. What broke Japan's strategic framework was the Soviet invasion, which removed the last diplomatic option overnight and raised the specter of communist occupation of the home islands, a fate that terrified the Japanese elite more than any American bomb. Prime Minister Suzuki himself said, in an interview given the same week as the surrender, that Japan capitulated to the United States as quickly as possible because Japan feared the Soviets would invade and hold Hokkaido, that Soviet occupation would destroy the foundation of Japan. And then there is Yonai, who called both of them a godsend, because without external catastrophe, the domestic situation, the starvation building toward revolution that fall, would have unraveled Japan from the inside with no way to frame it as anything but total collapse. The Big Six could not agree on what to do in the bunker on August 9th. They could not agree afterward on what had ended the war. Historians have inherited that disagreement and have been working at it ever since. What is not in dispute is this. It took 2 atomic bombs. It took the largest Soviet ground offensive of the Pacific War. It took the fear of starvation and revolution gathering through a devastated summer. It took a peace faction that had wanted to stop the war for months and could not find the political language to say so. And it took a 44-year-old emperor, alone in the dark at 2 in the morning, speaking in a register no one uses anymore, asking his country to bear what he could not promise was bearable. And then it took one more thing. A general who spent years as the war's immovable center, who died in his garden before sunrise, having saved the surrender he had fought against, and who left behind a note asking forgiveness for a crime he did not name. At noon, August 15th, 1945, for the first time in history, the Japanese people heard the voice of their emperor. After the speech ended, a radio announcer told them what it had meant. They had heard the voice for the first time in their lives, and the voice had told them the war was over.